So today, you guys, happy Monday. Gosh, June's almost over. How frightening is that? Gosh, it's just going super fast. So we have one more live stream for the month of June next week. But today we have Karina Lewis, who is an equine dentist, but she's very different than every other dentist I've ever met, which I'm so excited about, is she incorporates osteopathy and the whole health, like equine biological dentistry. And I've experienced that in the human field. So, and I've always
Mhm.
wanted to deal with it in the horse field, but I never met anybody that was that. I hate to use the word advanced, but I'm going to use the word advanced or forward thinking. I don't know, whatever the best word is for that. But Karina is an equine osteopath. She is an equine dentist. She was raised on holistic wellness and in the wilderness on the wild ranches. And so you are a rancher type person. Did you rodeo? Did you high school rodeo and do all that?
Nope. We didn't do any of that. We were a very traditional ranch, and that was what we did day in and day out. Um,
And I mean that's God's country, but it's also rough. Like your
it's
winters.
very rough. It's not a fantasy lifestyle. You learn a lot of skills the hard way. And I grew up in a very holistic family. My mom was a reflexologist, and my dad was basically an engineer. He has several patents to his name. So I was always raised to have a curious mind, and then the extended family were very involved in ranching, and I was close with my aunt and uncle, and also helped them do ranch management. So our family extended on both sides. My mom's family was the Zumwalt family, which is well known for putting on rodeos and ranch stock and livestock. And then on my dad's side, we managed a lot of ranches outside of Montana. So I've had experience ranching in Arizona. I've had experience ranching in Oregon, New Mexico, Texas, California, and a few other states I'm probably forgetting. But my uncle was a very well-known ranch foreman and very sought after. He managed John Wayne's ranch, Hugh Hefner's ranch. Howard Hughes, I should say. He was the guy with the airplane.
Right.
Um, and so it was, to me, it
So
wasn't
are you
anything
saying
outside the norm.
the Playboy Mansion doesn't have any ranching? Obviously, that's the wrong kind of
I misspoke.
ranching.
Yeah, he didn't
So
manage that ranch. I had to
that's the
correct
wrong
that. I always
ranch.
forget that name. I probably should just drop that. But Howard Hughes was a very eccentric individual. There's a lot of information and history about that, and we experienced it firsthand. So
Karina, I'm going to
I
ask
mentioned
you.
that just because,
Well, I think it's really weird. Your dad was an engineer. So did he have
yeah,
ties to Hughes aircraft?
he did not. No, he wasn't involved with that. In his early patents, some people have heard of the swing bike. He was the inventor of the swing bike. He invented several other home improvement products. One of them was kind of for entertainment, but was an easy way to make pom-poms. He also had a lot to do with early wind energy. He was in aeronautical engineering that went into wind energy. So my dad, while he was the head of the household and obviously head of the ranch, he also traveled a lot. He was an international businessman. So I think it was just a really neat combination of things that I was always encouraged to not just be curious, but to be thorough. And uh, my dad never let me, and my mom never let me take the easy way out. So horses became my passion, and I started an early career in horse training and helping people to resolve horses. I was very good with horses, so I traveled a lot doing that and attended expos and met a lot of people. And What I kept seeing was that there was this need for better healthcare. I'd spent 8 years being a vet tech, both in New Mexico and Montana, and I kept seeing this lameness loop, these horses coming through the clinic and being treated, and then pretty soon they'd be back, and the problems never really resolved themselves. So I really went back to my roots because I was raised around a lot of wild horses, had a lot of wild horse experience. And I really went back to the natural way with horses and helping domestic horses get the care that they needed as if they were in the wild. So my early interests in hoof care and
You guys, is Karina
part of
frozen?
my job was
Okay.
to float the ranch horses. So I had a lot of guidance from my uncle, who was an absolute artist and one of the best horsemen I've ever been around. And he passed about 5 years ago, but we trimmed and worked with horses clear up into his 85th year together. And
Wow.
so I've had some very strong mentors in my background, and I've also voraciously pursued every opportunity to work on horses, and it's been a full-time career. And I've attended multiple schools and achieved multiple certifications, but I'll have to say that the horses are my real teachers, and
Love
the
that.
real teachers are the wild horses. And I've spent a lot of time not just with them, but I was an ambassador and involved with Bureau of Land Management for 4 years, with wild horse placements, and traveled a lot doing that. And um, also did an independent 4 year study on wild horses in Wyoming. And I've been very fortunate to be able to immerse myself to become the expert in horses that I am today, and, and be able to exercise my passion that really is whole horse health. And I think what makes me the happiest is when I get to see the owners when they recognize that they weren't crazy for thinking that their horses could be better. They just didn't have the right guidance, right practitioners to be able to get there. And because I'm so passionate about horses, I've really pushed myself to be able to learn everything that I can about them, and I'm learning every day from them.
Yeah. And it's an exciting era for all of us, I
Mhm.
think, is we
Absolutely.
are
Yeah.
just learning more, trial and error, experimentation, hearing, observing. It's just been amazing. So I love the fact that you love
Hmm.
holistic horse health, taking the whole body. So what's that mean for you on your day
Yeah.
to day? Like if you're being called out for dentistry or o- osteopathic, do you morph the two together? Like, do you go
Mhm.
out and
Absolutely.
do
Yeah.
osteopathic
Um,
work first and then do the dentistry? Is it
no,
a whole service
no.
package?
I always it's a full service package. In fact, I did in the last 3 days, I've done probably, it doesn't sound like a lot because it takes a long time to be able to work through a horse, and my average is 2 hours per horse. But I've spent the last 3 days in Wilsall, Montana at a ranch, and I think I saw 15 horses.
Wow. 2 hours.
So
Girl, 2 hours each. That's insane. Yeah, that's a
yeah,
lot of hours.
so but
That's a lot of hours.
that's actually kind of a light schedule. When Dr. Patterson and I work together, we might see as many as 10 or 15 in a day, but this was an intimate environment, and she's been having a lot of problems with the horses. And um, just as an example, to give you an example of one of the horses that I saw today, was done very recently by a veterinarian, and the dental was not done well. The horse came out of that with a fairly prominent head tilt. In fact, he came in presenting with his head tilted to the right, and he can't eat. He was yawing quite a lot with his jaw, and his owner was quite upset. And because this, was supposed to be someone who knew that what they were doing. Um, and this is often the case. It's not to throw other people out of, the the picture or under the bus. It's that we've lost an intimate understanding of the horse and how its anatomy has to be in balance for it to survive and to be able to do basic functions like chewing. So when I opened the horse's mouth, his initial exam, and I always start the initial exam with a 7-point exam, which starts at the poll. I always look at the temporal muscles because they should not look like there's chicken breasts stuck underneath the skin. The temporal muscles are flat and fan shaped, and no horse is built with temporal muscles that are bulging and look like chicken breasts stuck underneath
The
the
skin.
skin. There can be some anomalies to that, like if the horse is super heavy, they may have fat padding. But today, the temporal muscles or inflamed has been normalized, and it's not normal anatomy. And it's a real early, evident, prominent indicator that there is a big problem with the horse's ability to chew and masticate its food. So from there, I examined the TMJ. I moved down the facial crest to the infraorbital foramen, which is where the trigeminal nerve exits the skull, and innervates the incisors and the muzzle. And I apply a bit of pressure. And from there, I move down to check the incisors. So I check the length of the incisors and the angle that the incisors come together. And I check to make sure that that angle, if it's steep, it's going to be pointed towards the eye or pointed towards the TMJ. In today's dentistry education, they're teaching that the angle of the incisor should be 0 to the TMJ, meaning that the angle of the incisor should, if you projected that angle, would align with the TMJ, but that's not correct. Earlier, you mentioned human dentistry, and horses are no different. Their teeth are aligned on a jaw that's curved, and they have an atlantoaxial joint, which is the C1, C2 joint, and the angle to the incisors are to align with that atlantoaxial joint. And so often I find horses like I saw today with a very steep angle and incisors that are far too long. And um, if I find that, then you're always going to find that that horse has trigeminal and vestibular nerve neuropathy, and I'll get into that here in just a little bit.
Wow. Hold
Um,
on.
but
So
I'll
I
check the
personally,
incisors.
I also have had a horse that was floated by somebody semi-famous and could not eat for 6 weeks and acted neuro EPM type thing. And I love, like in the halter horse industry, this whole temporalis muscle, everybody loves that big bulgy face. They like glamorize it. And and I've always been taught that that was bad. So I was so thrilled that you just said that because I believe we've adjusted to what we thought was healthy and it's not. So thank you for driving that point home. And also
Yeah, absolutely.
you were talking about how you float at a whole different angle because that's how horses go. And that's
Right.
mind-blowing. Go, I'll leave you alone now.
Yeah, so that's a really good point because when a horse comes in, you were asking me about what my process is. My first process is observation, and every horse has a different head carriage. Every breed has a different standard in head carriage. But what we know about horses' anatomy and the way that the nervous system works for the horse to be able to locate in its environment is that the eyes will locate on the horizon, and that it's the oscillation of the eye that triggers the vestibular nerve to be able to um, for that horse to be able to balance itself. So in today's dentistry practices, they're being taught to dental the horse with the horse's head elevated and inverted. And there's a lot of damage that occurs in that posture because number one, it's not a natural posture. Number two, it's an assault on the nervous system. So you do end up with symptoms like EPM, and there's reasons for that. It's not just the posture, but it's the process of how the teeth are floated. And if the teeth are aggressively floated, and it doesn't take very much to get into the term that I define as aggressive, you remove that pellicle covering from the teeth, you end up destroying the immune system. So that's where you have the issues with the EPM protozoal, because your immune system in the horse cannot function to be able to defend itself against a protozoa that's natural and in the environment already. So there's a lot of things that go into a dentistry beyond just the mechanics of it. So when I'm inspecting the incisors and I'm taking a look at the angle, I'm taking a look at the hallmarks to determine if the horse's incisors are the correct length. Are they angled at the correct angle to support the C1, C2 junction? And beyond that, do we have any dysfunction in the incisors that would cause symptoms? And in the case that I mentioned earlier with the horse that came in with the head tilt to the right, and he's literally walking sideways. So that already tells me that his vestibular system, the inner ear that causes the horse to be able to balance, has been interrupted. We call that neuropathy. So if if everybody doesn't know, I should explain that the teeth are innervated by the trigeminal nerve, and the trigeminal nerve and the vestibular nerve are intimate to each other, meaning one can't work without the other. So the trigeminal nerve is the nerve that not only controls blood supply to the eye, but it also controls the oscillation or movement of the eye. And that is what the horse uses to locate, to trigger the vestibular nerve to be able to balance itself. And the trigeminal nerve, which innervates the maxillary teeth, the mandibular teeth, and the incisors, as well as portions of the muzzle, um, and of course the eyes, it's what tells the horse its proprioception. So the vibration factor of the teeth, what is termed as occlusion, is extremely important, but it's not just the occlusion, it's the amount of vibration or pressure into the teeth that allow the horse to be mobile in its environment. So when I see and observe a horse coming in that has a head tilt to the right and is having trouble with its balance, obviously I'm going to make note of that we likely have some issues in the nervous system due to imbalance in the teeth. And with him, it was really obvious when I opened up his mouth, and we took pictures of this today, because it gets kind of basic to be able to count the incisors. There's 6 on the top normally and 6 on the bottom normally. And we also have to remember that male horses have canine teeth. So when I opened up his mouth, he was missing his third incisor on the outside. So his 303 incisor. And instead, the 203 incisor was sitting on top of the canine that had replaced the lower incisor. So he had 5 incisors on the bottom, 6 on the top, with the outside incisor on the near side, which we number as the 201, sitting on the canine.
Wow.
So that's like a lightning bolt to the head, because you've got tooth to tooth contact that doesn't belong there, and it's a canine, and canines are extremely sensitive, and there's reasons for that. And evolutionary reasons, if you believe in evolution, is that we're fighting teeth, but they also can scent through those teeth. That's why you see horses do the Flehmen response and things like that.
I had no
So
idea.
it was really obvious to me right away that we had some incisor dysfunction. Yeah. So what was really fun about doing this horse is he also had some molar issues, and that gets into form and function. I equilibrated the incisors enough to make him comfortable on a speculum, and then exercised his TMJ joint by opening and closing the speculum slowly, and having pauses in between to be able to exercise that joint open. When a horse is in dysfunction, one of the worst things you can do is stress that TMJ by opening the mouth and leaving the horse open on that speculum without giving it a rest. So I'm very conscientious of that.
I hate
And
that.
then once I have,
So do you
yeah,
use the traditional speculum or do you have a modified speculum?
I use a traditional speculum, but I use one that it's got a spring system, and it's got kind of a lever that opens that spring. And when I set the head, I've developed this process because I want to be able to equilibrate the horse with the horse in the most natural posture possible. And it goes towards the end result, which is not lateral occlusion, because that is what they teach today. With the head elevated and inverted, they move the jaw to determine if the jaw has mobility, and that's called lateral occlusion. That's flawed because no horse stands in that posture. They don't eat in that posture. They don't move in that posture. So I test for what I call dental grind. And so I'm doing that with the horse in a neutral head from the withers position. And I'm testing from the normal natural standing position all the way down to the eating position, because they should eat from the ground, when I'm checking for the dental grind, because that occlusion of the teeth is also about the amount of pressure into the teeth. So in addition to the trigeminal nerve, all of the arcades correlate to organs in the body, and that's not a scientifically researched prospect yet. I hope that one day we get a little bit more involved with that. It's very well researched in humans. I've spoken with several different professionals who have had multiple years practicing as holistic veterinarians. And we have a map that we have put together about which teeth correlate to which organ through the nervous system. And while we don't have any research that definitively proves that, we know through osteopathy that there is a strong correlation between the nervous system and the organs and the joints and the fluids in the body, etc. So in equilibrating horses that have malocclusions or dysfunction in the mouth, it's really important to me when I'm working with them that I'm not elevated and inverting the head, because it's not just the C1, C2 atlantoaxial joint that you should be careful about. It's also the ligaments that attach over that C1 and then sit inside the fossa, which allows that horse to be able to bend its head up and down. And that's called the apical ligament, the alar ligament, and the transverse ligament. And probably 98% of the horses that I work on, if they've had any dentistry prior, have dysfunction in one or all of those ligaments. So
Wow.
the osteopathic manipulation that I do while I'm doing the dentistry resets that for the horses,
Kar-
and it
Karina,
makes a huge difference in how uh, they respond.
Karina, I have a problem with people floating on a crooked head. So I always tell my clients, if you like your body worker, if you like your chiropractor, have them done before they get their teeth floated. Because if they're floated and they're out of alignment, you're stuck there, right? What are your thoughts? Maybe I'm wrong.
No. Um, so a lot of what I see is not symmetrical, meaning there is dysfunction when the horse is presented. So there's the vomer bone, which is in the top of the hard palate. And there's some argument in the industry whether or not that can be manipulated to help reset the sphenoid. I always reset it. Regardless, I feel that move and I know that the horses respond positively to it. So while I can't manipulate the sphenoid, I can manipulate the vomer bone, or at least I can put some pressure. So we have 34 bones in the horse's skull, and they're on suture points, which are joints. Teeth are joints. So before I start a dentistry, I'm going to take a look and see if that horse is comfortable to be put on a speculum. But I'm also going to have to do work so that I can free those areas up, especially the TMJ and the occiput and the atlas, because if those teeth are jammed, or let's say it's the opposite, where there's so many different issues, so I probably shouldn't even give a specific example. To answer your question, I look at curing that dysfunction through the dentistry. So fortunately, I have the ability to do a sedated dental because I have veterinarian oversight and I work closely with veterinarians who also trust me because I'm very good at what I do and they refer clients to me. So when I'm sedating a horse, I'm doing it on the lightest platform possible for that horse, because I want to be able to have that horse communicate with me throughout the dental.
Awesome.
Despite the fact that people think that they are not aware through sedation, they are absolutely aware of what's going on through the sedation that I use, which is metomidine. And we have that formulated specifically for horses. And it's a very intimate process, meaning I approach the dentistry sometimes just like training. I'll take my hand up inside the horse's mouth and I'll let them feel where I'm going to work. I'll point them to the area where I will work. I'll do a little bit of work. I'll close the horse down. I'll take the speculum off and I let them feel their mouth. And even the most anxious of horses will respond positively to that.
Amazing.
So there's gentleness in this process, and that gentleness is sometimes I have to dig deep, meaning on this horse that had the head tilt, he had been in that position and had some contraction in the muscles because of that. But as you work through that process, sometimes it's the anxiety that holds those muscles. So if you can help that horse relax through the process and understand that you're helping them, and especially when you're working on incisors, so trigeminal pain through the incisors is probably one of the more common things that I deal with, especially central incisors. And that can cause a horse pain from the earliest ages. Like I've seen horses in absolute trigeminal pain as early as a year of age because their central incisors come into wear at that point. So in a domestic environment, those teeth are erupting and that process is constant. So I'm looking at this process. What can I do with the horse to be able to restore it as close to natural as it would be if it were out in the wild? And what dysfunction is present that would not be there is if it were in the wild? So in a domesticated situation, horses as young as a year of age can be experiencing trigeminal pain because their central incisors are literally overgrown at that age because they've never been touched. So, I can't stress enough how important the dental health on horses is. And it's equally important to understand that what's mirrored in the mouth is mirrored in the feet, and what's in the feet is mirrored in the teeth. So once you
I
start
love
to see some of these patterns, it starts to become really relevant. Like today's owner that I worked with on the ranch, she does a really great job of doing barefoot trimming on her own, but she was chasing these flares that she can't get out of the feet, thinking that it was her bad trimming that was doing the damage. And every foot and every tooth we looked at correlated, meaning the
Uh-oh.
flares that were on the front feet were mirrored in the teeth, and we would have hooks on the premolar sixes and hooks on the rear 11s. So the anterior posterior action of the horse, meaning the up and down, is as important as the side to side or the lateral occlusion. So horses have a really unique joint that allows that lower mandible to be able to move in a multitude of different directions in order to chew in a down, out, back, and in fashion, both sides. And so if they can't chew in that natural way, they'll find ways to cope. And sometimes they'll be chomping and sometimes they'll be tilting their head, trying to get the food to the other side of the mouth where they can chew a little bit better. And there's always evidence of the dysfunction once you open the mouth. And we were seeing the evidence of that on her horses that would correlate with the flares that she was seeing, right down to differences in the size of the feet. So,
That's crazy. I'm
there's
so
a
glad you
lot.
brought that up because many
Yeah.
years ago I had a trimmer ask me to try to understand like reflexology, hoof reflexology. Your mom was a reflexologist, so I was all excited to hear about that. And so the one thing I noticed is all these little V chips out of the front feet were locked jaws from hooks in the teeth. Now that's as far as I got. You've taken it
Mhm.
so much further, and I'm just beyond excited. Like you need to make the reflexology chart, the horse
Well, we
teeth.
have.
You have?
Yeah, we actually have. Yes, when I got together with Dr. Patterson, and if people don't know, I work closely with a veterinarian, and his name is Dr. Tim Patterson. He's certified in over 25 different modalities, holistic modalities with horses. He is an acupuncturist, a chiropractor, an osteopath. He does neuropuncture, he does frequency therapies. He's just an amazing person. And when we started working together, I had shared with him some of the patterns that I was seeing and how it correlated. When I trim, I work with power tools, and I should probably fill this in a little bit because I've been a farrier for 34 years and I've been a dentist for 34 years and I've been practicing this for 34 years. And you start to learn patterns, and I'm a studier of patterns. So when I studied the wild horses in Wyoming, I really focused on the measurement of the collateral groove because at that time I was trying that that could be improved to obviously improve horses' soundness. So what I learned in studying those patterns and measuring the collateral groove is that I was seeing normal numbers on wild horses. So people have always asked me, well, how did you get your hands on wild horses? Well, I had a ranch of over 100,000 acres at my disposal, and my primary job for that ranch was to keep all of us on that ranch sound. And so that was my primary job, but there was a wild horse herd running around up there. And so I integrated them into the horses, into the ranch horses, and I gentled down a group of those wild horses, and I used them as my control group. So I had this fantastic access to these wild horses that have been running up there and since the early 1800s. And
Karina,
I
I'm
started
afraid
writing
I'm
down.
like you always think of Hollywood and like the black stallion stealing all your mares and all of this. I'm like cracking
Yeah.
up. I'm like, wait, what is this?
I
They
read
didn't
all those
steal your
books too.
horses and run off?
Yeah, I took the job at this ranch. I didn't know that there was a wild horse herd up there. I was offered this job on a private ranch, and I was like, great. I can stay home and I can be home every night and I still get to do what I love to do. And their primary goal in hiring me was that they had so much money tied up in these horses because part of their program was buying and selling and making ranch horses. And they had tremendous costs for trying to keep these horses sound. And these horses are up on this remote ranch. It's 70 miles of dirt road from this ranch to civilization.
Wow.
And it's a high altitude area. And they were watching these wild horses that had run on their ranch forever. This was a generational ranch, been in the same family since 1885, and they could not keep their domestic ranch horses sound. And they were like, how come wild horses can run around and be sound, but we can't keep our ranch horses sound? So what they wanted me to do is take all of their horses out of shoes and get them barefoot and working barefoot on this ranch. So that's what I did. And I had the opportunity of being able to bring these Mustangs into the fold, so to speak. And so when I saw the measurements, I noticed that the measurements were divisible by 3, and that really caught my attention. So I started looking for someone who was better at math than me. And I found a professor from Ohio State University, and he told me about the Fibonacci sequence and how it's a pattern in all creation that repeats itself, and it's because of the geometry of all creation. And it's not anything we've, as mankind, have created. We discovered it. And so there's many names for it: the golden spiral, the Fibonacci sequence, Gnostic numerology. There's lots of different titles for it, but I got really interested in the numbers, and that led me to frequency. And so working with horses with power tools, I noticed that that's my dog behind me.
Your dog's so cute.
um, yeah, yeah, she's pretty cool.
She's photobombing our
That
event.
Yeah, the power tools, they rotated an RPM of 13,000 RPM. Well, that translates to between 175 megahertz to 225 megahertz. So when I started trimming horses and I was following this wild model, I started getting these crazy good results. And I was just copying nature and the patterns that I was observing. And so I incorporated that into what I do today. And I teach that now as a standard and a process, because once people learn it, my oldest trimmer is 76 years old that's trimming her own horses. And she went from spending, I think she spent $80,000 one year in keeping her horses sound to she's not spending any money at veterinarians now.
Wow.
And that's a really common outcome. And it's just because my point of view is to take and try to simulate the wild stress that a horse would have as if it were out in the wild. And it's part of my history that I'm really grateful for because I have seen both sides of the coin. It's not everybody's advantage that they've been able to see real wild horses and study real wild horses. And and I never thought at the time to document much of what I was doing. I have some pictures, but I wasn't doing it for a scientific project. I just wanted to be the best that I could be. And so I just tackled it and did my research and homework. And I've been very grateful to know that I have these images in my mind of what horses look like when they run on big country. Our horses ran on big country growing up, and many of the ranches that I've been available to or work at that I've had the advantage and great fortune to work at. You get to see wild horse skulls when you're out riding. And we had one old horse on this ranch that he was 30 years old when he passed away. He still had a full head of teeth. He died from old age, not because his teeth were diseased. So, because I had a holistic background, I've always been geared towards trying to find the holistic process that preserves the horse's health long term and also simulates that wear and tear that it would have as if it were in the wild, even though it's in a domestic situation. We're constantly controlling overgrowth of the teeth and the feet. Where we tend to fail in the industry is understanding how that's managed.
Yeah, I understand that. That's amazing. So tell me, what did you see in the wild horses' faces that were so different?
Well, number one, I think one of the most um I think one of the most important memories that I have that really stands out is I was on my horse and I was up in high country gathering and I happened to come across the wild horse herd, so I just sat there and watched them. And they came down into the river bottom and it was the mares and the foals. And I thought they were coming down to drink the water, and they came down to show the foals how to rub their teeth on the round river rocks. And they were self-maintaining their incisors.
No,
Yeah.
I've never heard
So,
this at all. This is
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. So I saw this on a number of occasions. This was not a one-off. This was very much a part of the culture of wild horses there. And they didn't spend time in the river bottoms. So you would think where the river bottoms with the green grass, lush forage is, that's where you would think. Early on, when I started going to find the wild horses, I would go down to those lush river bottoms because it just seemed like that's where they would be. And they weren't there very often. They were up in the higher country where the feed was higher protein, less sugar, and their forage and their daily routine, they had a lot more abrasion or abrasive material that they were eating, as opposed to even the ranch horses who ran on the same country. But, we fed hay in the winter. If we had the horses in where we were working with them, they'd be in the corral. Maybe they'd get some oats. So the environment for the ranch horses wasn't that different from the wild horses. But what I saw was the difference in the daily habits. So, um, the abrasiveness of the forage, and then the self-maintaining of the teeth, and just the amount of movement that they do in a day is astounding.
I
Um,
like 25 miles a day or something
that's
like that.
very, yes, yes. That's 25 to 30 miles a day is a normal day for a wild horse. And domestic horses do not get that kind of movement. Now, what I will say, working on big ranches, a 40-mile circle is a normal day on a traditional ranch. So I grew up under those conditions. So I started correlating what I was seeing in the dental health to the fact that our horses' teeth were overgrowing. So even though we had a good understanding in our family that you had to float domestic horse's teeth. And I still have the original float that my uncle gave me at 15 years of age. I still have that float. And I floated my way through 2 degrees at college, using that hand float and a few others. And now, of
That's
course,
great.
I've got better tools and I'm much more refined. But
That's
um,
pretty cool. You need to like
you know,
hang that
my
somewhere.
uncle, yeah, well, one of the things I think that's so apparent to me, our life was life or death. So if your horse was not a partner, if your horse was not comfortable, that was not a good thing. We did have horses that bucked, and I was never a bronc rider, but my cousins could stick on a horse pretty dang good. My job was always never to have that happen.
Mine too.
So I kind of got delegated that job early on. Yeah. I was the hand that would bring in and doctor the horses, and that was kind of the one of the responsibilities that I was given. Um, and so that led me to early understanding that holistic processes were a part of nature. And earlier we talked about Dr. Patterson, and when he and I compared notes, he gave me the ting points on the coronet band, which completely correlated with what I was seeing in the patterns. And that's 5,000 to 6,000-year-old information that he's learned because he's stressed himself to be certified in acupuncture, and he knows all of the meridians. So what I was seeing in the patterns I was seeing, that was my confirmation and affirmation that I was on the right track. So with his help, we have done a graph. Horse Medics is the vet clinic that I founded. And Dr. Patterson and I work together closely to supply holistic vet care to horse owners.
Now,
And
Karina, is
he's
that
brought,
he's in Hawaii though, right? Or is he in the in local to
what's
you?
that?
Dr. Patterson? Is
No,
he?
he moved from Hawaii to Texas.
Oh, okay. So you guys, so you have your own vet clinic.
Yeah, so he was in Hawaii. I founded my own vet clinic, and largely because I was getting very frustrated with the regulation that's now come into the industry. So for 34 years, I've been doing my business. And then in 2014, regulation came in that said only veterinarians can do dental floating. This was in Colorado, so I moved to Wyoming. And then Wyoming, a couple of years ago, adopted the same regulation, which a lot of states have followed suit.
Right.
So I did do the education and all of the stuff that they require for lay dentists. They call someone like me who doesn't have a vet degree a lay dentist. But I grew frustrated because everywhere I went, having to I was having to either not comply with regulation, or I was having to try to comply with regulation. And I wanted to do things to the best of my ability and legally if possible. So I went to the law group that has largely spearheaded all of this corporate buyout of these vet clinics, private vet clinics. So one thing that you realize when you start to get to my age, is that the people that you mentored with start to retire and or pass away. So one of the veterinarians that I mentored with, he passed away, and that was a real wake up call for me because I realized that the flavor and the terrain was changing with regards to dental care. And so I formed my own vet clinic as a non-veterinarian. It is legal for me to own a vet clinic in some states, not all states. So
Amazing.
long as I have the corporate structure, yeah. So long as I have the corporate structure where I have a professional veterinarian that is responsible for the professional veterinarian side of things, like diagnosis and handling controlled drugs and things like that. So with the help of that law group over 5 years, I founded Horse Medics, and we're now a legal veterinarian clinic. And our goal, and I say our goal, because Dr. Patterson was handpicked. I put out a bunch of advertisements looking for the best holistic veterinarian that I could find that would help me to establish a vet clinic that would focus on holistic health care for horses. because I had seen so many examples of treatment, not cure. And
Right.
so that is our goal and our mission. And obviously, my part of that is the feet and the teeth and the osteopathy. Dr. Patterson is also an osteopath. So when we work together, oftentimes, number one, we'll scan the horse. So to go to your earlier question, how do you determine? We have a scanning software that measures the biometrics of the horse, and it gives us the data that we need to be on point, meaning we're not just guessing. We're very skilled and very experienced. So a lot of times we'll say, "Oh, this looks like this," and sure enough, it'll come up on the scan. But it
What
goes even one
can I
step
ask
further.
you?
It'll get into
Yeah, what scanning device is that? That sounds so cool.
yeah, it's called Energy for Life,
I love Energy for
and
Life.
they not only have the scan. Yeah, that
We've
we use
had a
that
guest
software and
speaker.
that scanning device, but also,
Yeah, NES
hmm
Health
yep.
has now turned
So
into Energy for Life. And
NES Health. Hmm
yeah, and they have this
Yep.
amazing equine
Yes.
imaging system.
Yes. They do.
And I
Yep.
love their
It'll even tell
info.
you where the emotions are
Yeah, I
stuck.
love their infoceuticals. Like
Yes, I do so.
I talk
Mhm.
to people about the imprinted water all the time, and people have no clue what I'm talking about.
You have to grow up in the mountains to understand that water is alive. And I grew up with live water. In fact, the water that flows into my dad's house is spring fed and comes direct from the mountain, and we have those water rights. And so when you understand oxygenated water and that turns into hydrogen in the body, you understand the difference between dead water and live water. And water is a big, big issue because if there's so many things we can talk about dehydration, we can talk about hydration, how important that is for the mitochondria, how important it is for the fascia. There's so many layers to this, and we really take that whole horse approach. Today, I was presented with a horse that they had bought at this ranch, and he hasn't. They can't catch him. Like literally, they turned him out, and they cannot catch this horse. So we did some fancy footwork that included a four-wheeler. We got that horse caught, and we brought him in, and I scanned him, and he had a very, very bad dental before they bought him, and he had some issues with regards to that. But his primary stuck emotion was envy because he had been told that he was less than other horses. So he was carrying that stuck emotion. So we did the frequency work to unstick that emotion and reharmonize him. And I did the dental. We turned him back out. And later on, towards the end of the day, she said, I'm going to go out and see how that horse is. Now, they haven't been able to catch this horse for over 6 months.
Oh,
She walked out there and he walked right up to her and she put the halter on his head.
that's
And we have a
amazing.
witness to that. Not
So
just me telling that story.
I love that so much. Oh my gosh. Karina, this
Yeah,
is
and this is the
so
kind of
cool.
stuff that I get to see. I get to see this every day, and this is why I'm so, I like that you're teasing me about being on vacation. I am on vacation.
Yeah. That's
You
the
know,
worst
it's
vacation I
it's
have
really
ever seen. But you love it. You love it so much. I mean, it
yeah,
totally shows
I
your
do.
passion.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
amazing. So
Well, it's really, it's
the
what I wanted to
energy,
share with you is
go ahead.
we one of the things we see come on. Well, I wanted to make this point, and I apologize for interrupting you, but it's really important
Go
because
ahead.
it's data that we have. We have we have the most comprehend meaning Dr. Patterson and I, we have the most comprehensive database on horse biometric scans of anywhere because we work on them every day, we scan them every day. What I'll say is horses come in with nervous dysfunction as a primary weakness in their biofield. When the dental is completed and it's done well and they're balanced, that no longer exists.
So
So
you
we're seeing the
rescan
impact
them.
of these bad dentals.
Do you
Yes,
rescan them
we
after
rescan them,
the,
it's gone.
Okay, now, Karina, we
Yep,
got to
it's not
talk
there
about
anymore.
this. So Energy for Life. I know they have an app that you can scan long distance. Do you do that? Like
Yes,
all these
the
people on
remote.
the Zoom call are going to be
We
freaking out and they want their
yeah.
horses scanned.
Yeah, so it's one thing to scan, it's another to fix them,
Right.
right? So one of the things that we're trying to get really serious about, and I'm just waiting on the universe because I've been working on this project a long time. And we have some promising leads, but we haven't been able to put it all together yet. We're working on trying to get a brick and mortar where we can teach other practitioners, other professionals these skills in a real-time working environment.
Excellent.
I'm not saying that class time is not productive, but when you're seeing it in real time, the horses don't lie and the data doesn't lie. So it's one thing to scan, and yes, we do remote. There's some skepticism from some people on the remotes. They want to see it real time. We don't make any differentiation on that. We can scan remote, and Dr. Patterson does excellent consultations remote. He's the expert. Um, I really focus on the feet, the teeth, and the osteopathy, and I have a part to play in the result. And what I'll say is that the results that we're seeing, especially with the whole horse being addressed, is phenomenal. We're seeing horses that aren't able to perform literally, where owners are thinking about putting them down or, giving them away as a pet horse or whatever, going from not performing to cutting 3 seconds off of their barrel time in less than a year when the horse is addressed holistically.
Yeah, I used to be a horse trainer and my whole if you bring a horse in training with me, their teeth must be floated before they come in. And ultimately, my clients would lie to me. And they'd
Mhm.
be like, here's my little baby, fix it. And there was one gelding who could not lope one step, like trip, stumble, and I assumed he had like some neuro disorder and just sweating from me, sweating from him. Everybody was stressed. And I finally picked up the phone and said, did you float that horse's teeth before you brought it in? She was like, no, I didn't think you'd notice. And I
Mhm.
was like, you almost ruined your horse's life.
Mhm.
Like, I was so upset, but now I'm paranoid to have anybody float my teeth, my horse's teeth, my teeth too, but my horse's teeth, just because I feel like it's it's just a job for most people. They just get in there, they do their job, they get out, they use the speculum, they tilt the head up. There's no love there.
Well, a lot of them are doing what they've been taught. A lot of them are doing what they've been educated to. And the unfortunate process that we have now with standardized education is that it is just that it's standardized. So it's a cookie cutter, one size fits
But
all. And we have some real dysfunction in the education system today, not just from the veterinarian side of things, but from the schools that are teaching lay dentists how to float. So, from my perspective, one, I've seen the extinction of the ranch culture. I've lived long enough to see that. And now I'm seeing the extinction of the horseman's culture, horsewoman's culture, of people like myself who came into it through experience because I was born into it, continued into it as a career, and I was really blown away when I went through the dental school myself at how many were there and really had no horse experience. And I think that's problematic. And I'm not sure what needs to be done except to offer a better tool. I've taken the path of objecting, I've taken a path of protesting, I've taken the path of advocating, and it doesn't really change enough of the system to cure the problem. So from that point, I'm going to do the best job that I can to understanding that my next role is probably going to be um, it's probably going to include being an educator, because
Right.
some of these things are not something you get experience unless you are made aware it's a problem. We have normalization of dysfunction. We have associations that teach dentistry that tell their practitioners it's okay if a horse has a little bit of TMJ sensitivity because it makes it more trainable. That's absolutely not correct.
Oh
And
my gosh.
I've been to conferences where that is a whole lecture by a veterinarian. So I take exception to that, because the opposite is true. And that is that when horses are balanced and they're treated with the care and expertise that puts them in a homeostasis, which means the best health that they can be, um, as if they were in the wild, they don't have, and nor do they display the problems that I see normalized in horses today, walking around with their head giraffe high, looking like they've been shocked by an electrical shock, is not normal. That's trigeminal vestibular nerve neuropathy. Posture, being able to understand that lameness comes from dental dysfunction. Understanding that horses rearing up and not wanting to come down the alley is a reflection of pain, not just the horse misbehaving. But, back in 2014 was when I was really made aware that we had dysfunction in our educational processes, because I was flown out to Maine and there was a horse that they wanted me to look at that had a really great medical history, had had a really good career. He was 11 years old, and all of a sudden one day he starts flipping over, and they can't understand why he's behaving that way. Nothing in his training or in his past would, correlate with that behavior. And I had started really paying attention to some of these dysfunctional behaviors that I saw in horses that not only that I was working on, but that I was being asked to train. And uh, I flew out to Maine and they brought the horse to me, and it was in a big arena with nice, deep, soft dirt. And I put about 3 or 4 pounds of pressure on his nose and he flipped over backwards. And that's the trigeminal nerve firing involuntarily. And about 45 minutes later, after he'd had a good dental, that behavior was no longer existent. But today, we're seeing more and more people harmed by horses. Um, and I've personally had a friend of mine that was flipped over on, and he was killed and left his wife and 3 daughters without him. And I didn't do the dentistry on his horse. He had a vet do the dentistry on his horse, and I wasn't able to examine that horse, so I can't say definitively that that's what caused it. But I did see a video that someone sent me of the dental, and the head was elevated and inverted. And what I do know from experience is that horses cannot function um, when they have the ligament damage that occurs due to that posture, and or they are dentaled incorrectly, that puts incorrect pressure into the teeth and or disengages the teeth. So if you have a lack of dental grind, it's equally um, it's equally injurious to the horse. So these are things that I've observed, and it's not just that I've observed them, I've fixed thousands of them, um, because people bring me horses every day, everywhere I go. I'm very blessed that people want me to work on their horses. And we had one come into the clinic that I just did in Darby, Montana, and she couldn't even get her to the barn. The horse was so dysfunctional. This is a very experienced horsewoman. And one thing in particular would just send her horse flying out of control, and that was movement of the hand, the of her hand by the horse's eye. And she's had the horse for 6 years, and now she won't ride the horse because the horse isn't safe. And she sent me videos and pictures of her horse, um, 2 days after the dental, and she's moving her hand around the horse, and the horse is just standing there looking at her. And the next pictures I got, she was riding her horse.
That's so awesome. Karina, that's such a great point because a lot of people would assume, oh, this horse has been hit in the face multiple times. I mean, that's everyone's go-to is
Yeah.
abuse, trauma, some sort of big cataclysmic event. And that is such a subtle no. Thank you for that. That's shocking. I'm
Mhm.
really sorry about your friend, and that made it very personal for you. That's horrible.
Well, that's one reason why I've been so outspoken about it. I really got out of my rut and I started talking a lot about this stuff because, yeah,
Well, it's
I
not
don't want to
fair
see
to
anybody go.
anybody, right? So everybody suffers.
Right.
Like that one gelding I was training, I was like, you just wasted your
Mhm.
money, your time, this horse's happiness, experience, capability, and also made our relationship stressed and insecure. And so
Mm.
the residual effects is cataclysmic.
Yeah, it really is. Well, I think too, I think back to my ranch culture, and a horse that could keep its feet under it was invaluable because it really was life or death. And I've had a horse fall with me when I was trying to catch a calf that had run back, and my horse stepped in a hole, and I broke my ankle and my arm and a few ribs, and it wasn't very much fun. But that horse, he knew where his feet were. And that life or death relationship and partnership with your horse was a really important part of our culture. And it wasn't just horsemanship, it was that our horses could do their jobs, and having that relationship with horses, there's nothing more terrifying than when I go to a rodeo or I go to some horse event and I'm seeing a little kid on a horse that's standing on its back legs and the horse is out of control, and the potential for certain death is there. Horses can do a multitude of different activities without that kind of behavior. And I've seen it. I've lived it, I've done it, I've created it, I've made it, I've done it. And it's hard for me to wrap my head around people thinking that that's just a horse, that's just how the horse is. But they don't have that connection. They don't have that understanding. And a lot of times the misbehavior or the symptoms are misdiagnosed. And there's kind of a joke that we have in our inner circle. We'll throw out some sort of a symptom, and the answer is always it's in the teeth. But the aspect of the teeth and the feet being in balance are really important because we know through doing dissections that on a cadaver you can move the lower mandible and the back foot will twitch because it's all connected in the nervous system. It's all connected through the fascia. It's connected through the muscles. And many times when I'm working on horses, just that palmar nerve in the middle of the frog is a significant pain receptor that lets the horse know whether it's going to do the activity with good behavior or not.
Well, and it's
So
I've
those
done similar
things are not.
dis I've done similar dissections where you move the jaw and the foot moves, and then you put a bit in their mouth, and all of a sudden, even though they're
Yeah.
dead on the
uh,
table, things change just adding
right.
the piece of metal.
Yep. Or even, yeah, even putting a noseband on a cadaver, they can't move their head left or right as significantly as they can without it. So, we can't, I don't think we know enough about the nervous system. I think I know a lot about it because I've messed with it for so long that I have a really good idea. I mean, I know um, when you get into the horse's mouth and you start to see patterns in how their teeth are, and the behaviors that they exhibit. And I think a lot of it is nerve stimulation and it triggers the brain. And that's why it looks like a pattern because the process is always the same, fight or flight. And so it's, I wish I could write it all down. I had somebody today that was trying to see if they could film what I was doing. It's a very difficult thing to look in the mouth
Karina,
unless you're
you're
the
gonna get the
one doing it.
transcripts. You'll get the transcripts on this. So I have to point out that I muscle test, and every horse that I muscle test that has EPM talks about how their lower mandible is like numb or jacked up. It's always my like red flag go-to. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I've worked on a lot of EPM horses, and I don't wish to sound egotistical, but bring me an EPM horse, I can't help. So when we look at EPM horses, number one, all of them have had bad dentistry. And all of them have had some neuropathy in the nervous system. So on the other side of that is the other things that we do with them and peeling back the layers of the onion. So has horse been vaccinated to toxicity? So is vaccinosis an issue? Do they have toxins with their trace minerals? Is the trace minerals, are they deficient or toxic? So we hair test to determine that. Does the horse have heavy metal toxicity? Because that's also um, can produce symptoms that look like EPM or can be diagnosed as EPM. What I will say is that the EPM horses that I've had a chance to work on, that's all addressed, along with getting the fluids moving in the body to be able to nourish the nervous system so that that horse can heal. And I don't approach EPM as the one level approach where they go through the treatment and then they're either better or they're not. I take a look at peeling back the layers to be able to determine where the dysfunction is. So the other part of that is nutrition. You know, we have to take a look at what type of food that horse is eating. Is it eating soy? Does it have leaky gut syndrome? Almost all of the EPM horses that I've been around, and HYPP horses too, all have some sort of gut dysfunction. And a lot of that's because of the feed that they're being given. Build the
Oh,
immune system and the horse will heal.
right. The at least in dogs and humans, the immune system's like 80% in the gut. Now, because horses are grazers and they keep food in their stomach, it's a little different process, and I don't really understand it. But with dogs, you fast a dog, you kick up their immune system. And so I've always wondered about that, Karina, because horses need to have that padding in their stomach.
They do, and this is a multi-level subject. So today and yesterday, one of the things that we looked into with a couple of the horses that had the leaky gut syndrome is we also looked at the fact that their jaw, because of the dysfunction in the dental, was pushed upward and backwards, which leverages not just the hyoid, but it restricts the pituitary gland and the thyroid. So the one mare that we looked at, she has tremendous hormonal problems. And guess what? She's stuck like crazy in the hyoid and also rotated. So after the dental, I released the hyoid, and we had also done the scan on her, and that pulled up the hormone issues, but it also pulled up pituitary and thyroid. So
Amazing.
we
So,
have to,
we do iridology in this group, and we see the same thing is
that's right,
we see so much endocrine disruption. It's crazy.
definitely.
But
Well, soy will do that. Some pesticides will do that. I've had some horses that have scanned sky high for Roundup, and people are spraying their pastures with Roundup. Down in Texas, the overhead misters with the insecticides are really important or really prominent. And so
right.
we'll see horses with endocrine dysfunction from that. So glyphosates are also another big disruptor. So we have a lot of environmental disruptors that can be part of the equation. And that's why we love doing these scans, because we don't want to be guessing, we want to be curing. And that's what we want to do. We want to get to the root problem so that we can cure it so that that horse can be well.
Okay. How do you cure glyphosate toxicity? What's your go-to?
Number one, don't give them Adequan. Number one, do not give them Adequan. Don't give them osphos,
Phosphos.
because all of those osphos, yeah. There's probably a few more. I'm a little bit out of touch with some of the new drugs that they're coming up with. Um, Admittedly, because I'm so
Gabapentin.
dang busy trying to fix horses.
Like
Yeah.
where did gabapentin
So
suddenly make it in the horse industry? I was like, what?
I have, yeah, some of the things that are being done, I'm a little bit unfamiliar with, but I do know so Adequan is a really popular pain reliever, so is Osphos.
Right.
And both of them are super high in mercury because they use hydrochloric acid as the pH balancer in the product itself. And what the FDA will tell you is that hydrochloric acid is filtered and it only has small trace amounts of mercury that's okay to give in injection. No amount of mercury should ever go in the body, ever.
Karina,
So when we're testing these horses,
We have people freaking out on the Zoom.
I was
Yes.
just gonna
yeah,
say thank you
I'm
for
sure they are.
saying that because every time I've ever mentioned that, people look at me like I have three heads, including vets. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you mention the mercury issue, if you mention the glyphosate issue, and I think there's kind of a shift in thinking, like people are starting to shift their thinking and starting to open their minds a little bit to that more and more and more over time. But it's so frustrating in the meantime because the glyphosate stuff, everything you are saying, I feel like we just sit around and talk about this all the time. Poppy and I just talked about this. Like I just wrote an article. I just
She
wrote
wrote an
another
article and
article
I was
about
trolling
glyphosate.
her. I was like, so girl, how do you go from here to there?
Yeah.
It's
So
crazy.
we have to take a look at how much is in the food supply too. So when you take a look at some of the feed supply that is out there for horses, we've done some independent testing on some feeds, and I'm not going to say who they are because I don't want to get sued, but we've found off the charts heavy metal toxicities in these feeds. So it's not just the osphos and it's not just the Adequan and maybe even some of the others. Um,
Karina,
I I
I
was given.
walked through a feed company because I ordered a bag of bentonite and they were like, "Oh, it's over at this milling company in Oakdale." So I walked through it and they had rat bait between the grain bins on the ground, and the grain bins were
Yep,
not covered or isolated. It was just
yep,
grain here, rat bait,
yep.
grain here, rat bait. And I'm like, what are you guys doing with rat bait? Like in the grain? And they're
There,
like, you're not supposed to be
I,
here. Yeah,
So
shocking.
well, we've changed some of our recommendations on the types of feeds that we're recommending because we've done our independent testing and we were really alarmed with what we found. We found across the board that rice is now toxic for heavy metals.
Yes,
Um,
arsenic.
there was a little bit of research that I did. Yeah, arsenic. So we also have geoengineering that's been a big problem too, that a lot of people are not acknowledging. So we have a lot of offensive information or stuff that's coming into horses' worlds that are not healthy for them. And once we
Karina, can
start
I
breaking
tell you?
things down,
Oh, sorry. There was like a delay. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
So the dog industry has advanced supersonic where it's really weird that the horse industry has stayed the same because the horse industry had originally been the one that was doing all the kind of out of the box stuff because when you buy a horse, it's expensive and you go show a horse, winning matters. And so a lot of people were investing deeply into finding the best way to care. But the pharmaceutical companies gained a lot of credible points and they started supporting the vet schools
Yeah.
and everything
Mhm.
got smashed down. But I'm just shocked about the Adequan, and I really think EPM spiked with the West Nile shot. It's a theory. I don't know for sure. It was interesting. I
Well,
get I
I
get
went
no
through
so
I
go ahead. I want to hear it. I want to hear what you say.
I did post an article. Well, I did post an article on my Facebook because the vaccine issue is one that we deal with all of the time. And we see so much toxicity in animals that are vaccinated frequently. And that by frequently, I mean yearly and or biannually past just the initial loading dose for immunity.
It's ridiculous.
And when I did some research into the emollients that are the ingredients that are into the emollients, I think it was 72, and I'd have to go back and pull up the article that I wrote. But there were a number of ingredients in the vaccines that do not belong in the body. They're toxic. Formaldehyde is one, aluminum is one,
Mercury.
thimerosal is another,
Hmm.
and
Mer-
mercury. The other thing is that I found out that the salts that they use in the emollients is not tested. So they're now finding the salts are heavy in toxic heavy metals, and and that the salts that they're using that they consider safe are not safe. So I think it's safe to say you probably should not be vaccinating your horses.
Right.
Um, and I hate to say that that is what we are recommending at this juncture, but we're seeing these massive spikes in heavy metals that we've not seen in the last 10 years. It's coming from somewhere.
You
So
can
can I
So
talk
actually,
vaccines is the
about
number
my
one.
my heavy metals story really quick, just because you guys are here and you guys need to hear
Heather's
this.
so excited.
So you
Heather,
guys,
turn
I
your
contacted
video on and I'll highlight you.
you what?
Turn your video on and I'll highlight you.
Oh, I can't. Oh, I thought it is on. My video's on. Hey, see me?
Now look at you.
Oh, hey, you like my hair?
Hi, Heather.
Wait, really quick. Hi, Karina. I just love you. Thank you for everything you do. I just have to tell you guys because there's people on here that need to hear this nonsense. And I'm not going to name names because someone's going to sue me. But last year, 2025 was my year of I'm going to punch heavy metals in the face. And I was very angry about it. So I was very passionate about it. So I contacted 5 of the popular feed brands. Can't name names here. Okay. These are brands you would see at like Tractor Supply. They're all over the place. And
Mhm.
I demanded transparency. Okay. So, like, I emailed them. I wanted to talk to the people who could give me answers within the company. You guys, this was not one feed company, this was 5 major feed producers.
Mhm.
You guys, they will not give you
Right.
a certificate of analysis. They will not talk to you about mycotoxins and molds. They will not. You mentioned heavy metals. I got the runaround, I got ignored. And one of them was so shady, they told me they would only speak with me over the phone, that they wouldn't answer my emails. They wouldn't put it in writing. So that goes to show you that the feed companies know that the FDA
Yeah.
regulation, the bar is set so low to
It's the good old boy club.
yeah, and they're like, oh well, we test our feeds, Miss Underwood. We can tell you that, and I'm like, right. So where's the certificate of analysis? So what do you? I want you to tell me specifically what measures do you take to ensure that our animal feeds, our horse feeds, do not have toxic levels of heavy metals and of mycotoxins. They won't do it because they know damn well that feed is poisoned. And that I was like, I'm never buying any of the stuff again. And not that I was buying it anyway. I haven't fed any of that junk for years, but I had to go find out what they would say so that I could start telling my EPM people, my clients, everyone, right? Like now I have it in writing,
You
right?
gone,
Like,
yeah,
anyway, sorry, Karina. Sorry, I just had to tell
you've
you
gone
guys.
a similar route.
Well,
Yeah.
and there's
So
this dog,
we've done
there's a
similar,
dog
yeah. And
advocacy.
we've even found that we've
There's
even found that there's base feeds that they don't put on the label.
right. And there's a dog advocacy group that is called Truth About Pet Food. I would
And I
love I would
part
love
of
you
that
two to get
comes,
together.
yeah, well, this is a really important topic because we haven't even got into GMO feeds either. And all corn is GMO, all soy is GMO. If it's not Roundup ready, it's you
GMO.
know, we
Yeah.
don't have natural sources of feed. And that goes back to the monopolies that own these companies and the process of making money. It's a profit model, it's not a health model. And we need to remember that. If you want a health model for your horse and you want a healthy horse, then you have to get educated in these things. And we have to get away from the pushing of a pill or the pushing of a shot because what we're seeing is that the residual 2 to 3 years later down the road is when you see the real damage. And yeah,
Well, and
so
I can tell you, so truth about pet food is, now I'm gonna like blank on her name. She's amazing. Her dog died to pet food, and she was an equestrian too.
Susan
Um,
Fixon?
Thank you. There's Susan Thixton. And so we asked her, is anybody being an advocate for the livestock space? And she goes, nope, nobody's doing it. And so she goes to all the AFCO meetings, all these other meetings, and she raises a bit of a ruckus to be the advocate for
Mhm.
the consumers. And maybe we need to
She
get that.
she also does a great job of engaging with all the product folks and creates a list every year of approved products because she takes it through a whole test. Like she's gathering a ton of information from the companies to know that it's human grade, all the things. It'd be great to have somebody in the horse world. I just think follow the money though. Like it's not happening in the horse world
Yeah,
because there's a serious
it's
monopoly on drugs and such. But if we had a Susan Thixton in the horse world, I don't know though. I feel like they'd get sued. I feel like
Well,
it would be a problem.
I believe she's been
yeah, that's
threatened. Yeah,
that not surprise me. Yeah, not surprise me at all.
so scary. All right. Oh my gosh, this is all shocking and awesome and not new news to this group to some degree, but I love where you're going with all of this. I love that you use the Energy for Life scan. I didn't know they had frequencies. I've always used their imprinted water. So it's very cool that you do what you do. You run the scan, you've tried to fix whatever it is because everybody I know that has that NES or Energy for Life for horses, they aren't educated in horses. They just run the
Hmm.
scan and they're like, here's your printout, good luck. And you're like, what do I
Yeah,
do with it?
that's kind of right, exactly. And I think that's kind of where we're pushing things. We really want to see a paradigm shift where we want to see that tool in the industry where people have the access to holistic care that's comprehensive. It's integrative and comprehensive. And I'm just very fortunate. I think partly because I'm an advocate. I've been really um dedicated to working with the best people. And if it doesn't work for me, I continue looking to find what does. And I'm very fortunate to be integrated with people who understand acupuncture meridians, but not just that, the neuropuncture and how frequency works. One of the examples that I used in my book was the bridge over the Tacoma Straits. And a lot of people know that story because it was the most catastrophic engineering failure yet in our history. And they built this massive multi-million-dollar bridge that fell 14 days later because it wasn't tuned to the wind frequencies that were coming down that strait. So
Wow.
once you understand that frequency is medicine, you can start to reharmonize horses' bodies by literally feeding the frequencies in that changes biometrics. And it's just fascinating stuff, and it's sometimes way over people's heads, but we utilize it every day in the work that we do. And right down to when I'm working on the teeth, I'm not hammering on those teeth. I was a hand floater for years. I now use power tools mostly because my body doesn't allow me to work as hard as I used to. I'm 56 years old and I'm starting to feel the wear and tear a little.
It's hard work.
But your power instruments can be with delicate hand, and I utilize that when I'm working on their feet. The horses don't feel threatened by that. They're used to being tuned to frequency. They're the best at grounding because they have 4 feet on the ground. And
Right.
we forget, that grounding is a part of our um bodies as well. We are designed to be barefoot and tuned to the earth. That's the natural ionic energy that we need to be pulling. So when we see horses in shoes, that automatically is something that I take into effect, that that horse has a deficit or may have a deficit. And that's what the scan helps us to understand. So it gives us a big profile, and we can start peeling back the layers. And the first and foremost is the teeth and the feet, and then getting the body communicating with itself.
Okay, now you have a book.
Energy is everything.
Okay, that's your book. You do?
I have two books.
Okay, so you have two books. What are they?
Yeah, I've written two books. Yeah, I have the first one that I wrote is called The Mirror Effect, and it won the 2023 Literary Award for Best Nonfiction of the Year at the Equus Film Festival in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It
Wow.
also won the International Impact Award for Empowerment. And then my second book is called The Horse Healer, and it just won the International Impact Award for um, best book on natural holistic medicine for animals.
That's
So those can
amazing.
be bought
Okay,
on my website, or it can be bought on Amazon,
what is your website?
Barnes and Noble. It's available at every major retailer.
Okay, what's your website? Are you frozen? So we need website if you
Dot-
can hear me. Okay,
Yes, I can hear you.
okay, website. When's your school? Who are you teaching? I want to know all the facts here. I want to know everything.
Well, we're working on getting the school set up. We don't have our brick and mortar yet, but we've got some very promising leads on that, and I am working feverishly on it. Websites are horsemedics.com, and it's HORSEMEDIX.com, or you can look at some of the hoof care protocols that I exercise, and that's at hoofmedics, HOOFMEDIX.com. So those are the two easiest ways to get a hold of me,
Karina,
is through the website, or Facebook is another good way, Messenger.
okay. Where's the reflexology map?
Did we freeze?
Yeah. Where's the reflexology map?
I will post that on my Facebook. If
Cool.
people want to go there, they can find it. And my Facebook profiles are Karina Lewis Horse Medics, and it's KARINALEWIS Horse Medics. I also have two Facebook platforms that I only post the information for horse medics, and I also have one for hoof medics. And that's without all my personal stuff where I'm traveling and showing you beautiful pictures of the mountains in Montana.
And lattes. Your coffee
Yeah.
and pastries. I'm like, that
Yeah.
looks pretty good.
Yeah, Bernice's Bakery, man. If you ever make it to Missoula, Montana, you got to go there.
That sounds amazing. Look great, but Montana is just beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous.
I
You're
love my home state. I do. It's a beautiful, it's God's country, no doubt.
absolutely. I just don't know if I could hang in the winters. All right.
Yeah,
Any,
those are a little tough.
can I open the floor for questions? Are you available or do
Sure,
you need to
absolutely.
go? Okay. You guys, do you
No,
wanna,
absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy to take questions.
would you
I
guys
I feel
like,
so bad about the delay.
I know there's a little like
Karina, we're
lag.
really not rude and interruptive people, but yeah.
Okay, ask away, Mary. I know you got
I
something.
have a million. I'm not even sure where to start. Like,
This is fun,
um,
right? This is fun.
oh, I'm really, really interested. And it stinks you're in Texas. Like, I'm not going to get my horses down to Texas. But that was a question, like from the consulting from a distance. Have you worked with farriers if they're open and willing? I mean, I have a farrier who's pretty open and
Oh
willing.
yeah.
He actually goes down to Texas and works with somebody down there at there's a bunch of rehab clinics down there he goes to with a whole lot of horses. he goes every other week or something. But anyway, would you be willing to? How does that work? What is the consult? And then I have a silly little question about my two boys, which is just random. They both are missing the same front tooth. I have a vet who specializes in dentistry. I mean, you sound way more skilled, even more skilled. However, he literally sits on a little tiny stool, so the head of the horse can be as low as possible, but he can still, get in there and not break his body, right? Gives
Mhm.
them breaks midway through, like all the things you're talking about. Can't say that I know he's not doing an osteopath while he's working in the mouth. But anyway, yeah, how does it work long distance? And then what do you do? Like, so both of these geldings, I know one of them lost his tooth when he was still a foal. He must have like chomped down on something, it popped out. And the other gelding, I've only had him for less than a year. I have no idea how he lost the tooth, but Poppy, isn't that just karmic that both of my geldings have the same front tooth missing? So there you go. And
So
I don't know.
it,
Yeah.
so here's a weird hack. Both my geldings have the same exact birth date, but like 5 years
Oh,
apart.
super fun,
I'm
right?
like,
Yeah.
what? 365 days you have a choice of, and here you go. When I looked at their papers, I was like, that's weird.
That is
Yeah,
weird. So, Karina, and you said you could help any EPM horse, Poppy. Like,
I know. This
challenge
is
accepted. Challenge accepted.
well,
4
and Lyme,
years.
Lyme
Yeah.
too, Karina. You're all over any
Yeah.
of the neuro
Yeah,
deficits.
Lyme is all about frequency. It's also about determining what type of bacteria that's been contracted, and you can identify that through frequency. So,
Okay, so
um,
both. And I mean, the one horse that I just took on in under the last year, he's had chronic Lyme since he was probably a weanling.
mhm.
And I took him on because his past owner couldn't keep treating. I'm doing more homeopathic and natural and of course nutrition and all the things. But my
Frequency,
EPM
though.
horse, I've owned him his whole life, but I'm pretty sure he's had EPM his whole life. So, or I've owned him since he was
Yeah.
weaned.
Yeah, anytime I hear that, it's not EPM, it's dental health, it's dental dysfunction. It's kind of it's one of those things where number one, physically to be able to help you would be the best.
Yeah.
Um,
Come
being
up to
being
Michigan.
able to
Come see Michigan on a hot day in
well,
Texas.
yeah, so I should make the point that I travel more than I'm at home.
Okay.
Um, and part of the reason is because people need me to help them with their horses. So what I've always done is I've always put myself available to be able to travel to a location. And there's a couple of things that I always try to put into place. Number one, doing dentistry today, I like to have cooperation from a veterinarian. So we network to be able to make that happen. Number two, making sure that there's enough people involved so that when I get there, the numbers work and I can stay in business because obviously I have to pay my bills like everybody else. So one of the things that I would suggest for you, to answer your question, I've worked with a ton of farriers. I'm very transparent. I'm happy to share my knowledge and be transparent so that other people can help more horses. I can only put my hands on so many horses, and the more people we have that are willing to learn these skills, the better. Right now, we're working on putting together some information and education, and part of what we're doing is making it race certified so that it's available to veterinarians so that they have the opportunity to learn and also fulfill their continuing education credit responsibilities because for veterinarians, that's one of the primary, I would say, difficulties that they have is in extending their education. It's the time, the money, and then being able to fulfill the requirements that they have to have the education. So we're very familiar with that, especially, when I took on the role of managing the vet clinic. I am really well versed in what it means to be a veterinarian. I'm very proactive to helping not only support those relationships, but to be able to do it correctly. So if you said to me, Mary, we're really interested in having you come up to Michigan, then we would just have to start talking about when, how many horses, and then being able to get you into the network so that just like today with the ranch, she's now networked so that she has the support that she needs going forward to be able to help get her horses the support that they need. So EPM and Lyme, EPM, my experience has been that we have trigeminal and vestibular nerve neuropathy, and that needs to be addressed first and foremost, along with any type of nutritional deficiencies or heavy metal toxicities. And then, of course, that would include a scan so that we could take a look at what's happening on the energy frequencies for that horse. And we might find some really interesting stuff on that. So I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. The protozoa actually is a very real thing, but it's in the environment. It's always been in the environment. So we have to take a look at what insult is happening with your horse and the immune system to be able to get to the process of cure.
Yeah.
And each horse is a little bit different. But what I will tell you is that every EPM horse that I have worked on, when I've been able to do both the teeth and the feet and get the body balance in place, is that we see a drastic decrease in symptoms,
Yeah.
period.
So I'm real interested. And we just had Dr. Thiessen, I can't say her last name. Dr. Thiessen just moved to Michigan and I just had her out. She's integrative vet. There might be something. So how many horses do you need to make it worthwhile to get on a plane, you know?
Number one, I don't fly because I have a lot of
Oh,
equipment, so I have to
okay.
drive. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a truck that's 2 years old and I have 135,000 miles
Maybe my
on it.
farrier could give you a ride with his whole cab in the back, on his way back from Texas. I'm just kidding.
And the
He
dog.
he's
The
from
dog
he's from
goes too, right?
Australia. He's a really nice guy. Yeah. He has a little doxy. She likes other dogs. It'd be fine.
It's totally possible to be able to try to put together a clinic. What I'd have to know is where, and then I can calculate, what my expenses are going to be.
Mhm.
Generally, it's around 20 horses, sometimes a little more, but
Okay.
when I'm doing a distance like that, I do my best to try to meet the need and then also try to pay for it at the
Yeah.
same time. So.
Yeah. All
Karina,
right.
if you're going to be in California, let me know. I can't pull together 20 horses, but I will drive wherever you go. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's the other option too, if you can get somewhere where I'm going to be. And I need to get a little bit better about my scheduling. Part of that's on me because last year I lost my number one help. Her family has a real estate business, and so it got really busy, and so she couldn't do both. So I have been without my office staff and help for a couple of months now. My intent is to replace that. I'm working on that as well. And then my intent also is to target some areas so that we can announce it early so that if people want to be there and sign up. We do some haul-in events already. We've done some in Texas, we've done some in Kansas, we've done some in Colorado, and we know that the need is there. So um, we want to be able to get this help to people. And I also feel a strong push to try to get more people better educated. I've learned these strategies because I've been really passionate about the horse, but also because you perfect anything that you work hard at and you work at it over and over and over till you finally get the result. And so now I can teach other people how to do that. If they don't know that there's a problem, how do you fix the problem if you don't know there is one? Right now we have a bunch of dentists running around out there thinking that it's okay to check lateral occlusion with the head elevated and inverted.
Right.
That's the majority of dental education today.
With
So
spinal compression because you're
exactly.
inverting.
The damage, yeah, I mean, the damage to those ligaments is catastrophic. And I get to see the difference because when I adjust that, I mean, some of them that I adjust sound like a gunshot going off, so if you can see the process before and after, and that horse is better after, then we should be doing the processes that result in the better horse. And, you know, it's a matter of the practitioner. They're either going to care about the horse and they're going to want to take the time to learn it, or they're just the ones that are out there being the 15-minute practitioners calling themselves a professional.
Right.
I
Right.
have one question, if you don't mind, Karina. My name is Anna Vigil. I actually live here in Texas, and my question is, as far as your education program, are you planning on doing that here in Texas, or where would you be coordinating those?
Right now, we're fielding some opportunities from a couple of different areas. So I'm non-specific right now. It's about where we're going to be able to have people come in that our two main criteria are that the people have access to us, meaning an airport nearby that it's a major airport, and the other is a ready access to the horse population.
Okay.
Karina, how often are you actually home? That's another factor. Let's be real. Like you're like a dart. But there's a
Yeah,
big need for
yeah,
people like
I'm not
you.
home very often.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Because your Bandera is
I'd
your,
like to be home. I'm a homebody, really, but I don't get to do that very often.
is that right? You said Bandera is your home base?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pipe Creek is where my yeah, Pipe Creek is where my residence is right now.
Okay. I
And
like
that's my
4.5
base.
hours from
Yeah.
you. I'm in Snyder. I'm in West Texas.
um
Okay. Yeah.
so
I'm
is
up through
Cheyenne.
there multiple times during the year.
So that's what I was wondering. We
I have
have
a
we have
yeah.
a person in our membership that also has like a wellness center that
Mhm.
she has in West Texas. I wonder if she'd be open to hosting you
Mhm.
and just getting
Maybe
because
so.
yeah, that would be amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Anna, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was my instructor. So
Yeah, so I wonder if Cheyenne would be into that. We'll ask her. I'll send this
Yeah.
recording to her and see if
Sure.
she'd be game because that would be fun. Yeah. Yes. That would be super awesome. Karina, any other questions, you guys?
So I'm assuming we
Yeah, I
can.
have one.
Okay.
Yes. Carol. That was Carol's voice, right? You guys
Yeah, it was.
you guys are not showing your faces tonight. Go ahead.
Um, I found your comment about the uh, heavy metals very interesting. I had my entire group come back very high in aluminum, and it took me a while to figure out what it was. And at that point, they were on commercial feeds, and what I think it is that particular feed has bentonite as a digestive modulator for that. And,
Mhm.
this goes back to what they're willing and unwilling to share. And I think I was basically poisoning my horses with the bentonite in their feed.
You cannot, the aluminum cannot. Do you have a lot of geoengineering or chemtrails that are in your area?
Yes,
Most people do,
I
but
do. I do.
okay.
I,
Yeah.
I'm a mile
So
from an
that's a
airport.
major source.
Yeah, so the
Mhm.
just the jet stream,
Yeah.
just the gas or whatever they fuel, I guess it is, right, is just toxic itself. The bentonite, I had a fe
That's so they use aluminum oxide as the
go ahead, Karina.
sorry, there's
I know we have this weird
yeah.
glitchy.
Well, number one, it's good that you identified the aluminum, because obviously that's a start, right? Hopefully, are you doing any type of chelation to chelate the aluminum? What are you doing for that?
I have been, yes. I've been using Dr.
Okay,
DePaulo's.
awesome. Yeah, that's where I would clue you in to start. And I will say that his is the best program in the world. And a lot of it's because he's passionate like we are about horses. So other programs are just standard protocols on herb
Okay, Karina, I'm going to talk while you're frozen.
Vaccines.
There you go.
And it also can be from the geoengineering that's happening all over the world now.
Karina, I always wondered if the fencing was contributing, like aluminum, any of the wire or the metal fence.
I don't think we should rule anything out because we have the other thing that's really prominent and not talked about is the microplastics.
And the
You know,
water, yeah. So
yeah,
we
I
have
mean,
water buckets that are plastic or
yeah,
water
yes,
bowls that are
yes,
steel.
yes.
Yep.
And aluminum toxins can also come through water supplies too. So there's a lot of different elements, and we've gone on the rabbit trails of testing feeds and testing hay. And one of the things that isn't talked about very often either is the drying agents that they're using on hay now that can contain ammonia and citrus. None of those things should be in the horse's gut. And unfortunately, it's really common now to cure hay and add additives to hay that shouldn't be in the hay that we're feeding our horses.
I didn't know that. So they're
Yeah.
actually synthetically curing the hay?
Yes. Yes, that is more.
What?
Yes.
That explains a lot. I had a whole barn of horses run a fever on a batch of hay,
Mhm.
and it looked beautiful.
You
And
have to ask a lot of questions of your hay person for sure.
yeah, I
Mhm.
never went back there.
Yeah. So there's so many things too, like the fertilizers and things that they're using. One of my clients was the toxicologist for the state of Maine, and she used to work in Washington, D.C., and she pretty much got run out of there because she protested the fertilizers that they were putting on fields in mass because they were using refuse from some of these paper mills and some of these
Oh.
other factory type industrial applications, and they were using that refuse as fertilizer on fields. And her studies showed, and this was way back in this was back in 2000 and when was I in Maine? um 2007 to 2010, somewhere in there. Anyway, when she did her tests, it was showing that there were spiked levels of heavy metals that was causing um developmental delays, especially in children, because they were eating this food from the fields. Then they started it showing up in milk from the dairies because the dairy cows were eating it. So, I started paying close attention to that because my family has always been in farming, specifically my grandpa. And I went and talked to him about some of the farming subsidies that they were offering in Idaho, because that's where he was farming. And he went into great detail about why he turned down those subsidies, because as part of the farm subsidy, the farmers were being made to take this refuse and spread it on their fields. So those are the types of things that we need to be looking at when we're looking at sourcing our feeds for our horses. We unfortunately are going to have to be basically micromanaging until we find the products that work. And there are a lot of products out there that are safe, but there are many, many more that aren't. So
Right.
when we see heavy metals and we see deficiencies or toxicities in their other minerals, we have to start looking at why. And what I'll say too is this is really important because today most dentists are using power tools, and not all of them are going to be using them responsibly. The organic covering of the tooth or teeth is called the pellicle. And there have been some really great studies into this, of which I've shared throughout the dental community, but nobody seems to be talking about this, because when they take and they pull that covering off of the tooth, your horse cannot metabolize its nutrients the way that it should. The teeth are designed to interact with the forage to build the enzymes that it uses to digest in the hindgut. So when we're taking down the teeth through equilibration, which is a necessary maintenance on our horse's teeth, if your dentist is not careful about how much they're taking that covering off of the teeth, it can severely disrupt the digestive tract, which can then lead to all of these deficiencies and immune responses that we're seeing on our scans and our nutritional and our hair tests. So it can be something as simple as the reduction of your horse's teeth and the horse not having the pellicle covering of the teeth to be able to digest its food that's causing some of these problems.
So the mastication, the saliva, the
Correct.
bolus that they're creating is
Correct.
the beginning of the whole
Yes.
digestive system.
Yes. And
That
we
makes
have to understand how important that is because they masticate 30,000 to 60,000 revolutions per day on
That's
average.
amazing. I have
That's
never
huge.
even thought about that. That's
Right.
insane.
Yeah. It's not a small thing. So I share that because, who's looking at the teeth? I see these teeth, and some of these horses are 2 and 3 years from recovery because they've had such disruption on the teeth. And even one step further than that, they're abscessing. Well, that abscess is a clear um, red flag that the immune system is failing. So,
Right. Well,
you know,
and I'm going to make a comment about the microplastics because that is also a culprit for mare hormonal imbalances.
totally. Yes.
My sister got a government grant to take all those plastic shopping bags and make them into pelleted soil for ornamental orchids. And what she found was when she used this, they bloomed aggressively and several months early. And so it was just like all these kids getting their periods at 9 years old. Like it just screws with their cycle and their ability to be normal.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's
Well,
terrifying.
we're seeing it pop up on the scans. There's some things and labels in there, and it can be as simple as the dye that's in the plastic bag that you feed your horse in, and it's leaching through to the feed.
Yeah.
So those are not small things.
No, and I walked into a feed just a normal feed store and they had some guy like spraying all the feed with a pesticide and I was like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Oh,
Yeah,
we got weevils." And I'm like, "You can't just spray the feed like that." And it's like, "Oh, it'll never go through the bag." I'm like, "Yes, it will."
yeah,
I quit shopping there. I was like, "I'm done with you guys." I
yeah,
walked out.
yeah.
Yeah, Karina, this has been amazing. Thank you for your time. Much respect. I celebrate your journey and just keep speaking because
Thanks.
it will be heard because I believe that people like Heather and Mary and all these other people on this platform, they hear you and they will repeat it and they will point everyone in your direction. And you
Thanks.
get to train a ton of other people. So we're
I think
looking
so.
forward to it.
That's in the future for sure. We're going to make sure that happens.
If I had enough people, I'd have you in California for sure, but I don't
I
think I
actually
could do it.
Well, I don't think you're alone. I've had a lot of people ask me to come to California. Part of my lack of doing so is just the ability to be able to handle all of the event scheduling. And I've been working on that. I've actually started to bring together a team to focus just on that.
I think
Um,
Heather should do that for you. I think Heather should be your social media and travel girl.
Heather, you've been nominated.
Heather, you need another job, right?
Yeah, no, it needs to happen. And thank you for the encouragement. I need it. It's sometimes a little overwhelming. But I see the process being effective, and certainly our goal is to help more horses. So anything we can do to help that, we welcome that from anybody and everybody, and look forward to working with you soon.
I'm excited. Thank you for your time, your wisdom. You're making a difference. You're making our
Thank you,
horses
Poppy.
happy, and hopefully nobody else gets flipped over on. That's just horrible.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well,
This,
spread the word. That's what I tell people when I share this with my clients. I'm always educating, and one of the reasons is because we might save a horse or we might save a life. And it's really gotten to that point that we have to be looking at it with the seriousness that it deserves. And I've certainly been affected by it. I don't want anybody else to have the same experience. So share the information. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and please feel free to reach out to me. And I do my best to try to be available, and I'm going to try to do more and get a better organization to the education so that we can share this message. And I appreciate the opportunity to do that tonight.
Well, we love it. We're all here for you. We're in it.